Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be doing a review and flip through of Evan-Moor's Daily Higher Order Thinking, grade 1 to grade 4. Alright, so last school year was the first time that we used this series, and I would say that I really like the series. I like that the kids did well with it. And I also liked that when we were doing it, we were, touching quite a few of the core subject areas. And I also like the fact that for something that we added on, it was pretty inexpensive. I think it's an average of about $15, $16 for each of these. So I really like the series. So we are going to be continuing with these. It has 6 grades or 6 books in the series. So we were able to get through the grade 1 and 2, hoping to do the grade 3 and probably start the grade 4 this upcoming school year. It does correlate with current standards, so if that's something that's important to you, it's covered here. It is laid out where it can be completed in a 30-week period, with each activity taking an average of about 20 minutes or so, and I would say that is about accurate, of course, give or take here and there. It practices over 50 behavioral verbs, applies thinking skills to language arts, math, science, and social studies contexts. The front portion of the books, all of them, they are set up more or less the same way. You have your table of contents, then it tells you about higher order thinking. What are higher order thinking? Why is it important to practice higher order thinking skills? 10 tips, it gives you 10 tips for tackling tough tasks, And then what's inside, you get your 30 weeks of challenges and then the answer key. Then it gives you some teaching tips that you can take a look at, and then you have your behavioral verbs. Now each grade has a different amount of behavioral verbs that are used per grade, and I do have it written down here. The grade 1 has 66 words and a couple of phrases. The grade 2 has 59 words and phrases. The grade 3 has 61, and the grade 4 has 64. Within each grade, a couple of those words and phrases are repeated throughout the grade, and it is applied to different subject areas. So a word might be used in math in one instance, and then that same word would be used in science in another. So they get to practice a couple of the behavioral verbs in different ways in each grade. A lot of the words, they repeat as they go through the grade. So if they were to stick with this series, or at least a certain point, they would be practicing some of those words quite a bit. So of course it's going to add certain words to their their little word bank that they would have a really good handle on, so to speak, right? So for example, like these are the words in the grade 1, and if you take a look at the words in grade 2, you still see analyze, apply, all of these words with just a few new words being added in, as you go through the different grades, right? So that's that. There is 2 things that I noticed as I was doing this. Now, it might just be me, but I noticed them, so I'm going to point it out. I noticed that with regards to the definitions, for just a few of the words, they simplified it where, say for example, a grade 1 child, if they think that a grade 1 child may not be able to understand some of the words within the definition, they simplified it in grade 1, but then in grade 2 to 4, those definitions look closer to what you might probably see in a dictionary. One of those examples is predict. In grade 1, it says to tell what you think will happen. To tell what you think will happen. And then in grade 2, that same word, it includes the word probably. And it does the same thing in grade 3 and in grade 4, right? So just excluding the word probably from the grade 1 version, it simplifies the definition in grade 1 so that they're not confused as they're being introduced to what may be a new word to them. Another thing that I notice as well is that for some words that might be, what I think might be new to, say, a grade 1 student, it is introduced later in that grade 1 book as opposed to when it is introduced in the grade 2, 3, or 4. Hopefully that makes sense. So say, for example, a word like deduce might be a simple word for the most part. In grade 1, though, they don't introduce that word until week 5, day 5, and then it does appear a couple more times in the grade 1. Whereas in grade 2, it appears much sooner. It appears week 2, day 5, because by now, they have been, using that word a couple times. And then in grade 3, it appears even sooner, week 1, day 2. And then, but at least in my opinion, by week 4, it doesn't really matter when it is used because they would have been using it, quite a bit by now. So in grade 4, it appears week 3, day 1. All right. So as I said, with a couple of the words in grade 1, it takes a little bit for them to introduce those words, but then as they go up in the grades, they introduce those same words much sooner. Another example will be, say, the word construct. In grade 1, that word is used week 16, day 1. And then it is used again in the same grade 1, week 17, day 5, right? So they wait a while before they use, that word. And even though it does not appear in the grade 2 and grade 3, in the grade 4, it is used sooner, week 5, day 5. That may just be a coincidence, but I noticed it, so I am pointing it out. So anyway, so a couple pros that I would say from this series is that as they are doing logic, they are also doing a bit of the core subject areas. The exercises, they are pretty short, so they're pretty simple to get through. The exercises, they progressively within each grade, and as you go up, they get more difficult as they go through this series. It does have quite, if you have a child that likes to draw, each grade does have quite a few opportunities for your kids to be able to draw while they are doing this. It does touch on a few interesting like social studies subject areas, and as I do the flip through, you would be able to see that and kind of make that own judgment for yourself. And also a few of the grades include quite a few like puzzles and games and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, as somebody like that, like puzzles and that sort of stuff, I would actually be, interested in when my kids are doing that, and just being honest. A few cons that can be seen is that it is black and white. So if it is having color is something that's important to you, then it's only black and white. Some might feel that the repetitiveness of some of the words might be a little bit boring, and even the selection of words, it all depends on, I guess, what your goal for your little one, for your kids are. It will depend on if you think it is a good selection of words. Another con that I think can be seen is that there might be more fun ways to practice logical thinking, such as using word like puzzles, word searches, Sudoku. And as somebody that enjoys all of the above, especially Sudoku, I long for the day when I can use something like that to kind of, go through practice logical thinking with my kiddos, but that day is not here yet. But this worked really well for right now. So anyway, I am going to try and quickly flip through each of the grades so that you can kind of get a look at it to see if it is something that you would be interested in. Grade 1. So you can see the exercises, they're pretty short. But as you go through the grade, it's starting to get just a little bit more difficult as you go through. So this would be something, that could be fitting nicely, especially on a Friday. But at least for us it did, because we don't do a lot of heavy schooling on a Friday. So this worked out really nicely, especially on a Friday. Or if you had a day where you couldn't do probably your core subjects, you just do a couple pages from here, because of course you can change up how you use stuff. You don't have to follow it week by week or day by day. When my kids wrote down the words and meanings, we also broke it up. I also underlined the syllables for them, which was beneficial for one of my kiddos that's still working on that. All right, and then you have your answer key to the back. And then it gives you some other books in this daily practice series. So this is the grade 1, grade 2, every behavior verbs. Another thing that I like about this series is that I personally find that they made, a pretty good effort in trying to, use different imagery to represent, everybody. We did this as a group, but this would be something nice to do, you know, by themselves. And then you have the answer key to the back. The grade 3. And then you have your answer key and the grade 4. As I said, one of the things that I really liked is that, you know, it was definitely possible on, you know, on a rough day to do this and know that whilst you're doing this, they're doing writing, spelling, reading, a little bit of social studies, or math, depending on what it is, what pages that you chose to do. Of course, not all the time, but we all have those days. And then you have your answer key at the back. Alright guys, if you're still watching the video, thanks for watching and hopefully that was helpful.